I saw today that Donald Trump is continuing his war on China by attacking Tencent, which is the holding company for WeChat, the Chinese version of Facebook, and also it's involved in a lot of gaming industry. It owns some gaming companies outright and has major shares in other companies that produce games like Fortnite and Call of Duty. So it's quite significant. The gaming industry as a whole, according to Forbes, has taken a huge hit. Even companies that have nothing to do with Tencent, like Electronic Arts and so on, have lost 3% on the stock market in a day. I guess that's significant for them. The thing is with this is it's part of an imperial agenda. It's part of the agenda where nations, imperial nations, want colonial nations to produce raw materials and to consume manufactured goods. This has been a typical agenda since the UK took over India and smashed the textile trade, which was Indian textiles were famous before the East India Company and the UK moved in. They smashed the textile trade, closed down all the weaving houses so that they could import cotton into Britain and manufacture clothing that they would then sell back to India and other places in the world. Now, the internet has been an interesting thing. Companies like Microsoft were one of a number of companies having operating systems in the beginning, and a lot of those companies went broke due to competitive reasons. But one of the primary points of competition was basically pirating. Word was one of the most pirated softwares. I remember in the 80s, everybody was pirating Word. And it was a pretty good program. You could get it for free here and there. And so a lot of places used it. And when a lot of people had Word, they encouraged their workplaces to get Word. And that's one of the ways Word, Microsoft's product, attained dominance. The same thing happened with Intel computers. Basically, the IBM clones were initially illegal copies of the IBM architecture, but they were cheap. They were a lot cheaper than the Apple products, and they were cheaper than a number of the other computers that were around. And so a lot of people opted for IBM clones. They didn't buy IBM, they bought IBM clones. But that established IBM architecture as the dominant architecture in the industry. And eventually this paid off for Intel primarily and IBM. The use of Google provided a service that have become the standard thing. People start talking about Googling this or Googling that. It indicates the dominant position that Google attained. But Google attained that by having a fairly good product and by a lot of people using it. Google then went on to manufacture Android or create Android as an operating system for mobile phones. It made that operating system available to any mobile phone manufacturer who didn't want to have basically an Apple operating system. Or a Microsoft now. Microsoft has gotten into the game. But, a lot of the Android success has been that they have made it available to phone companies all over the world. So phones, whether they come from China or Sweden or whether they're Nokia, Samsung, whatever they are, run Android operating systems. And that's really the way they've managed to maintain their dominance by making it available, a good program, a good operating system, available to people all over the world. Now, Donald Trump has turned around in his war against China, and his war on China is an economic war, and it's based on the success of China and Chinese technology. He doesn't like the fact that China is succeeding economically and is a rapidly growing economic power. The United States is a failing economic power, largely because of capitalism. They opened the borders, they let their corporations go off and use cheap labor somewhere else, and so manufacturing all went offshore. A lot of it did go to China, but it also went to Mexico, it went to a lot of different places, anywhere where they could exploit cheap labor and exploit lower environmental and social regulations. So if they could exploit people or nature, they went offshore. And that left very little in the United States. You know, car companies, everybody else seems to make cars that are as good or better. You know, there's nothing particularly good about U.S. technology anymore. The Silicon Valley IT industry is one of the few areas where the U.S. has held some sort of lead, and of course weapons. China, however, has been rapidly growing as a technological provider. Huawei is, something that Europe and other countries, Australia and so on, have considered using as one of their primary technologies for 5G because it's a really good technology, because it's one of the best technologies you can get. China has seen, Facebook, and rather than have Facebook in China, they started WeChat, which was Facebook for China. And other people getting kind of sick of Facebook have adopted WeChat, at least to see what it's like, to see if you could have fun there. The same with, Facebook taking over Instagram. People are still kind of shitty with Facebook for good reason. I mean, it's full of ads, it's full of tracking, it's, the algorithms basically suck. It's an advertising vehicle. If you're not paying for ads, you have a really hard time getting anywhere. So a lot of people are rightly pissy with Facebook. So there's been a huge move to Instagram, which Facebook then bought up. And so people look for an alternative to Instagram, and there's TikTok. I mean, if you're looking for an alternative for one of these big, dominant giants, these Goliaths like YouTube or Google, it's hard to find them. It's hard to find something with that kind of reach, with that kind of ability to reach a lot of people, which is the basis for a lot of social media. China, with its population of over 1 billion, has a good basis for starting something like that. It started WeChat as an alternate Facebook. It started TikTok as an alternate Instagram, and people have taken it up. They've decided TikTok is fun. It's another way of getting information out there, and it's new and it's different than Instagram, and so people, particularly young people, have gotten onto TikTok. Donald Trump can't stand that because yet another thing, when he wanted to punish China, to attack China's economy, one of the ways he's done it is through attacking Huawei and saying Huawei is a security risk and trying to shut down Huawei, which was one of the rapid growing biggest phone and computer companies happening. And Huawei is increasingly using Chinese chips and things like that instead of Intel or some other kind of US-based computer chip. It's starting to do its own technology. Why not? They use Kirin chips and other kinds of chips. So in a way, it's a little bit of a threat to the Silicon Valley, not because China is evil, but because it's a good product and it's an alternative, and people aren't locked in to these transnational corporations that are based in the United States. So Donald Trump decided not only to try and do diplomacy to discourage Europe and the UK from using Huawei for 5G, but to directly attack Huawei by weaponizing Google and saying Google is an American company and the US state can tell Google to punish Huawei in order to punish China. And this is using corporations that are supposed to be independent, private corporations, for state purposes, for international diplomacy and pressure, and to maintain some sort of US empire by force, that people will have to buy US-based products. And he is firmly making Google, through its Android operating system, denying the Android operating system, the non-open source parts of that, to China as a way of attacking the Chinese economy. And this isn't about spying. I mean, this whole thing about spying is patently ridiculous. Honest to God, what Chinese data collection, is China using Huawei to collect data? Well, this is being filmed on a Huawei phone, and it's a great phone. I really like it. Is China taking my browsing history? Well, everybody and their dog puts a cookie on anything you look at, and they're all collecting information on my browsing history. And the US has their Five Eyes system that's watching everybody all the time. And the Australian government has recently made it legal to monitor everybody's internet activity, at least the metadata for everything. So everybody's spying on me. Everybody is spying. I mean, you can't mention cold sore cream without starting to get ads for cold sore cream on your phone or your computer. It becomes ridiculous, and a lot of people have commented on that. I know they say it's not true, but it just keeps happening. The thing is, all of these companies are spying on us all the time to collect our data in order to give us advertising that we don't want. I will say that if I persistently get ads, it actually turns me off the company, and I am less likely to want to buy a product from somebody who's giving me invasive ads. If I want something, I look for it. I will look on the internet for that thing. I don't want things shoved in my face everywhere all the time. It's not helpful. It doesn't encourage me to buy anything. I don't know if I am unusual that way. I rather doubt it. Donald Trump has taken Google and used it as a tool, a diplomatic tool, a coercive tool to attack the Chinese economy through denying Huawei access to Android and trying to cripple Huawei as a company, not because it's spying, but because it's a good company and it's extremely competitive. Now he can't stand the fact that there's an alternative to a US-owned Instagram, and he wants to destroy TikTok. And then he turns around and he wants to destroy WeChat, and there's a Chinese company that's involved in WeChat that's also involved in gaming, so he's going to destroy gaming. He's basically out to destroy any Chinese company, and he says they're all spying. Now, if Huawei is collecting information about what? My browsing history? Everybody and their dog has my browsing history. My political points of view? My political points of view are on YouTube. I use this as a political channel. I'm not worried about whether they understand my political view. Are they spying on me, what I say in the privacy of my home? Possibly, but I suspect the US Five Eyes system, which includes Australia, is much more likely to be doing that. And if China spies on what I say in my house, so bloody what? China doesn't care what I'm saying in my house. I'm not Chinese. The Australian government, on the other hand, they might care. They might want to spy on me. The US government, well, they spy on everybody all the time. So using this as some sort of an excuse, I mean, honest to God, China's not going to get any information that everybody doesn't already have. So this is patently simply using U.S. corporations as if they were state corporations, that they are not private entities, but they are used by the state for the ends of the state, for purposes of attacking another country's economy. And the reason he hates China is because it's successful. He can't stand it. He's attempting to make America the global commercial leader by destroying everybody else's economy, by destroying his competitors. He's not destroying his competitors by making a better product. He's using threats of violence, threats of invasion, navies off the South China Sea. You know, it's basically an attack. It's basically co-opting corporations that are supposed to be independent and private and using them as state-owned corporations. And to complain that China has state-owned corporations and then use U.S. privately owned corporations as state tools is hypocritical in the extreme. Look, that's all I really had to say. I just thought it was ridiculous. I thought I needed to say something pretty quickly. Thanks.